Namaskar friends. Today I am going to tell you about the source of this sentiment in a human being. Friends, scientists say man and brutes differ only in degree but not in kind. More or less the same quality is man is also found in the beasts, in the brutes. But friends, sentiment you cannot find in the brute or any animal, higher animal. This is sentiment, what we have considered. Feeling of oneself as precious to one is never found. Even in all human beings, it is not found. Because it is a quality beyond the qualities of flesh, blood, or bones. The origin of it is the same in all human beings. But all human beings cannot feel it. I will tell you why. Let me tell you first the source of sentiment. This says that the sentiment is a purely spiritual thing. It is above the trammels of bones, flesh, and blood. Bones, flesh, and blood, howsoever hot or cold or any way affected, cannot affect one's sentiment. First sentiment I have told you. Again I am repeating, once considering oneself something inward of oneself as precious. How? This idea of a composition, a lump of flesh, blood, and bones, into which God entered into as a soul, is only expounded in the Ruk Veda. It's so much detail I have never read anywhere. In verse number 4 of hymn number 164 of the first mandala of the Ruk Veda, God addresses the rishis, whether they knew that person who first formed himself into a lump of blood, bones, and flesh, and then entered into it as its essence, which is called the living soul. The top line rishis were first created to offer libations or yajna to gods. But God saw that they were definitely ardent in their worship, but they were ignorant about the creation of life by Him. God addresses them as, who has seen who? Who has seen Him? Can you say, who has seen Him? Him who first manifested Himself. Manifest means to be expressive of oneself, to be present oneself, from a non-present thing to become something, manifest. Who manifested himself into a lump of bones, flesh, and blood. Ko dadarsa, who has seen? Prathama jayomano, who first manifested himself. Masthananta jat anistha vibhrati, masthananta, body full of bones, lump of flesh, full of bones, masthananta jat anistha vibhrati, entered into it as unbornless essence. Bhumaya asura srogatva, bhumaya, on land, no, on land, but the base is flesh. Bhumaya asura srogatva, Asuhu Asruk Atva. Blood, Asruk. Blood, unbloodly essence. As blood, the lump constitutes of a blood, but he entered into it as an unbloodly essence. Bhumaya, there is a flesh, but he entered into it as an unfleshly essence. That is how was the lump became a living thing. And he got directly sages, go and ask the Pandits who has seen him. That he says, have you seen me doing this role on earth to create living creatures? Ko Dadarsa, who has seen? Friends, this address is very significant for you to know. It implies that it wants to create an ardor in you about him, to feel a hunger for him in you. What is this ardor? This ardor is the hunger, the hankering in a person about someone who is not present with one, but who keenly wants to see him. It is very important, friends. On this, I will give it to 3 to 4 lectures when human life comes. Ardor. Ardor is the essence of life. And in some form or other, it is present in every creature. The tiger must run behind a deer, even if its stomach is full. In all other creatures, this ardor exists as an instinct. But in human beings, it is regular emotion. And in case of 3 things, it exerts itself. For one's father, when one's father is absent, and when it is reminded. In love, about the loved person, about God. This detail I will tell you when I will tell you on life. Ko Dadarsa, who has seen? By this address, God has said that I have inculcated this sense of ardor into living beings. Without ardor, there cannot be a living thing. When this was himself, God said this, 2 implications have come out of it. One is, from the moment God manifested himself as a living creature, as a life, from that moment God ceased to exist as a separate spirit. But there is another theory which says, no, God might have entered into that lump as soul, but by that God is never reduced. God is ever full. I will tell you that hymn from the Upanishad, Purnamidam Purnamadaha. That I will tell you later. The question is, now we are discussing sentiment. This is the origin of sentiment, friends. It is directly divine, directly spiritual. Then why it is not seen in everyone and in some persons, very limited persons? It is not expressed in the behavior of everyone because we are attracted by our senses on the way of life upon earth, on temptations, how we can live better. Different pursuits of life attract us. Therefore, we are not conscious of the existence of the super soul in us, of a divine essence in us. After God asked the sages, The sages were bewildered. They thought themselves to be very wise on earth. The last sentence is Vidwan Samupagad Prastumetak. Go to the learned persons and ask them who has seen him, who manifested himself into a lump of flesh, blood, and bones, and then entered into it as a soul. None could answer this. And one says, becoming very submissive, put two questions to God. One question related to involve answers about God's roles and presence in his creatures. Another question related to answer that would give the nature of God. Who is God? How he has sustained creation. So I would like to first go to the manly way, human way, because our subject is lifeline. Now, for the question is put to God by that sage, Pakoh Puchami Monosa Abhijanan. I do not know God. What I am asking also I do not know, because I am premature. I do not know anything. My mind does not know anything. Pakoh Puchami Monosa Abhijanan. Devana Mena Nihita Padani. The inherent words, even the gods are ignorant of. That I am asking to you. Baske yadhi sapta tantun vitatnire kabayo sotobau. How the 7 layers have been spawned. Please enlighten me. So that Kabayo, the learned Pandits, can explain to Baske, to disciples, to their students, even fathers to their children, how 7 fibers Saptatantun have been spawned. These Saptatantun have been formed means one of the meaning is the 5 senses of knowledge, mind and heart. That means God exists in the living body beyond these spheres. These, each of the senses or mind or heart, in any way they work, they cannot affect the super soul, that existence in him. So God became kind to enlighten the sages. What happens to the lump of flesh after it became alive? By virtue of his going and existing in it. In the human soul, I am again repeating, in the human soul, because human beings have been endowed with consciousness, the gift of consciousness, that is why God's presence in human being as super soul, as the question arises with humans. In all other creatures, it exists as instincts. So friends, I think with this we should close today. Tomorrow or next oration, I will explain the rest of the things. Thank you.